Three of the biggest names in Hollywood turned down the same role: James Cagney, Laurence Olivier, and Cary Grant. So it went to a 55-year-old TV comedian who almost turned it down too. A few months later, he stood on the Oscar stage and beat Al Pacino and Jack Nicholson. If you've never heard his name, stick around. His name is Art Carney, and if you know him at all, you probably know him as Ed Norton, the goofy sewer worker from the Honeymooners. You've probably sat through a bunch of these Oscar snob breakdowns before and never once heard his name. That's not an accident, and it's a bigger part of this story than you think. So, how does a guy known for one goofy TV role end up beating Michael Corleone for an Oscar? Turns out his agent talked him into it with two words, and we'll get to those. But first, you need to know what he was actually up against to get there. Carney was born in 1918 in Mount Vernon, New York, the youngest of six sons in an Irish Catholic family. His father was a newspaperman. His mother was a concert violinist. Carney found his own voice doing comic impressions on the radio in the 1930s, singing novelty songs with Horace Heights Orchestra on a giveaway show called Pot of Gold. Then, the war happened. Carney was drafted, landed at Normandy, and took shrapnel from a grenade that left him with a limp for the rest of his life. He came home and went right back to comedy, because that was the only thing he actually knew how to do. The limp stayed, so did the habit of being underestimated, and that one was about to follow him a lot longer. In 1950, Carney got paired with a loud, unpolished nightclub comic named Jackie Gleason on a variety show called Cavalcade of Stars. The chemistry was instant. By 1955, that chemistry had a name: the Honeymooners. Carney played Ed Norton, Ralph Cramden's sewer worker neighbor, for one season of 39 episodes. That's it. One season. But it was enough to make him the first performer in history to win 3 Emmys in 3 consecutive years. So, on paper, Carney had made it. But here's the part that doesn't fit the highlight reel. Carney spent years afterward practically begging to be seen as something other than Norton. He took Broadway roles. He played Felix Unger in The Odd Couple in 1965 opposite Walter Matthau. He did serious drama on Playhouse 90 and Studio One, and he barely moved the needle. To most of America, he was still the guy in the pork pie hat, and no amount of range was going to arc him out of it. Underneath the frustration, Carney was falling apart in private. He drank heavily for most of his adult life, had a breakdown severe enough to check himself into a sanatorium during the run of The Odd Couple, and his marriage collapsed in 1965. He remarried the following year. He struggled again. So by the early 1970s, Art Carney wasn't some untouchable TV legend cruising toward an Oscar. He was a 50-something actor with a limp, a drinking problem, and a career people mostly associated with a fictional sewer, which is exactly the opposite of where this story goes next. When Mussorgsky came calling after 3 legends passed, Carney almost said no too. He was 55, playing a man in his 70s. And didn't think he could pull it off. His agent, William Francis Javier McCrae, told him something blunt, and Carney liked the line so much, he repeated it word for word a year later on the Oscar stage.
And my agent, manager, father confessor, William Francis Xavier McCaffrey for 25 years, who said 2 words to me: do it. You are old.
Only 2 words. That's all it took to convince a guy who'd spent 30 years being told what he was good for, that he might actually be good for something bigger. And what he did with the part is the reason this movie has never fully disappeared. Even though almost nobody streams it today, Carney doesn't play Harry as a lovable old man, dishing out wisdom at the camera. Voters had only ever seen this guy get laughs. Norton was pure comedy, built out of double takes and rubber band physicality. Harry has none of that. He is tired in the joints, stubborn about small things, Thunder with the Cat without ever tipping into cuteness. April 8, 1975. Glenda Jackson opens the envelope for Best Actor. Al Pacino for playing Michael Corleone in The Godfather Part 2. Jack Nicholson for Chinatown. Jackson reads the name Art Carney instead, and there's something the write-ups never mention. Carney gets a full standing ovation, not a polite applause, a standing one. Because here's the context. The Academy had just spent 5 years watching its biggest stars treat the ceremony like an insult. And that same night, Bob Hope and Frank Sinatra were publicly feuding with the room over a political acceptance speech from earlier in the evening. And into that exact tension walked a well-liked older TV veteran going up against Nicholson and Pacino, the two actors most identified with the new Hollywood taking over. Carney had one advantage neither of them had that year. People in that room already knew him and liked him. Carney probably didn't steal the win so much as inherited from two performances that likely split the same voters, two towering, career-defining performances, both drawing from the same pool of people who couldn't pick a favorite between them. And there's a strange side effect to that. He becomes a punchline in someone else's story instead of the lead in his own, which is honestly a little unfair to a performance that carries an entire film from start to finish. It truly comes down to something pretty simple. Carney spent decades being told he was only good for one kind of a role. He got only one shot to prove that wasn't true. In a year when the two frontrunners happened to split the vote, and voters who already liked him took it, stripped away the discourse, and that's the whole story. Carney kept working for another 2 decades after that night, opposite Lily Tomlin in The Late Show. The old con man in going in style, always turning in performances nobody thought to expect from him. He died in 2003. He was 85 years old. You can barely even find the movie that won him the Oscar. That gap between what actually happened on the stage and what people remember now is what I'm digging into next. What YouTubers actually understand about filmmaking that Hollywood doesn't. Subscribe if you don't want to miss it when it's up. I'll see you in the next one.